The tenets of democracy are skills for living in our society that include tolerance, critical thinking and decision-making, thinking together and making meaning, power sharing and empowerment, and individual responsibility and civil involvement with others. More information on this can be found in the Technology as Facilitator of Quality Education model. The students in the 6th grade class are learning about statistics by relating the concepts of mean, median, and mode to basketball shooting percentages. The class is team taught by the classroom teacher and a multi-categorical resource teacher. To begin the lesson, the multi-categorical teacher reads the students a book about basketball. The students display critical thinking when they predict the development of the plot.
Alley's open on the side. Fake it low, but toss it high. Just a second. Is there time?
Do you think she's going to make it? Yeah. Raise your hand if you think she's going to make it. How come? How come you think she's going to make it? Because it's just like, we talk about this in reading class. It's like making connections, right? In every game book that we have like this, we know she makes the shot, so we predict that she's going to make the shot in this one.
The students will work in groups of 3 during the activity. Before the teacher assigns groups, she has the students discuss some reasons they should not make comments about the other members of their group. The students are encouraged to show individual responsibility and civil involvement with others by demonstrating sensitivity towards the other members of their group, and by demonstrating behavior appropriate for the situation.
Why else would you not want to make comments? Stephanie? Why wouldn't you want to make a comment about which group you're going to be in?
Because you're probably going to support that person, no matter what you said.
That's exactly right. And you don't want to hurt their feelings, right? We want everybody to get as much learning out of this activity as possible. And if you're thinking, those people don't want to work with me, you're probably not going to be able to learn as well. So we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
The teacher gives the students opportunities to experience power sharing and empowerment. The students in each group have specific roles, and each student gets a chance to lead the group. The students have to be reliable and take responsibility for their duties. The students also have to communicate with each other in order to ensure that their group members complete each step of the activity correctly.
So within each group, each person is going to have a job. And one of the first jobs that each that people are going to do is the materials manager. And the materials manager needs to get the materials, make sure that they have the materials for the activity, and then put the materials away when you're done. The next one is the data manager. And the data manager makes sure that everybody completes their worksheet and gets everything done that they need to for each station. And the last job is the math resource person. And that's the person that's going to help out anybody that might have trouble with some of the math that we're going to be doing during this activity.
The multi-categorical teacher shows the students how to use the National Basketball Association's website in order to gather data on a professional team's free throw percentage and field goal percentages. The teachers promote individual responsibility by encouraging the students to show self-control and patience.
Notice that I am not clicking on a bunch of extra stuff. One thing that I see 6th graders doing a lot of while you're waiting for something to happen, you start clicking a bunch of other things, and that slows the computer down. It prints more copies than you need. It gives the computer more to think about than is necessary. Okay? By waiting, we found it's there. We're going to go to, over here it says statistics. We're going to go to statistics. Next thing we're going to look for, once we get to the statistics page, right here, it's pretty hard to read, but right here it says team by team. That's the easiest way to go. One click on that is going to give you a listing of the NBA teams.
Okay, so you can pick, but before you pick, what do you have to make sure that you do?
Go to you.
Emily, what do you need to do? Go to me. Michael Hennon, why do you need to go to me? Jack.
To make sure that you don't get the same team as somebody else did.
So why do you need to go to me, Michael?
I didn't hear.
Say it again, Jack.
So you don't get the same team as somebody else.
So why?
Same team as somebody else?
All right. Why wouldn't that be good if you had the same team as somebody else?
Because you would all know the same information.
That's exactly correct. And we certainly wouldn't want that, would we?
The students in one group demonstrate thinking together and making meaning by being sensitive to the needs of their team. They provide support for a student to make sure that each person in the group understands how to round the decimal figures they find on the MBA's website.
And then Minnie's is 431. Wednesday, my favorite higher than 5. Is 1 higher than 5? She has to look at the 1. Do you see? Ew! Is the 1 higher than 5? When it's higher than 5, if the 1 was like an 8, if the 1 was like an 8, it'd go to 44, right? Because it's higher than 5. But if it's a 1, it's lower than 5, so you keep it at 43.
And what did you do with this?
Hi. Wow, 7, 3, 8. Is 8 higher than 5? So what do you do? Go up or stay down?
The students use their critical thinking skills when they apply the mathematical concepts they have learned. After they have gathered both their group data and the data from a professional team, they use the concepts mean, median, and mode to interpret the statistics. The students compare their group's percentages to those of an MBA team.
Okay, so you're free throwing 10%, and what are they free throwing?
79, 89, 81, 73, 87, 76. Yeah, all them.
All them. Is there a way that you could put those in one number and say, this is about what they're doing? How do you do
all
that?
together. If you plus all of them together, and then divide it by 10. So.
And what's that called? When you plus them all together and divide by
Average.
the number. You could average their free throws, and that would
39.
average or mean, right? Another good term for the same concept.
81.
You could take an average, and then you know what their average is.
The students have to write letters to the professional basketball teams they studied, explaining their project and their results. The students display critical thinking and decision-making when they identify the items they need to include in their letters and decide what criteria they should use to judge the quality of the letters.
So before we begin writing our rubric, let's go ahead and brainstorm a list of things that we need to include on our rubric. What do you think we need to have on our rubric? What's important to be in our letter? Emily?
The steps.
Does that sound familiar? What else, what other things do we need to include besides what we did step by step? Andre?
Why did you do what you did?
Now let's take these things and see if we can turn it into a rubric. And Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith is going to do it on the computer as we talk about it. So what is quality, if we look at the top step, which is what we did step by step, what does quality look like? So it needs to be in order. Step-by-step explanation of procedure in order. What else?
The students show individual responsibility when they write their letters. Each student is accountable for the quality of his or her letter. The teacher makes suggestions where necessary, but the students are responsible for their own work.
I am writing to say that I like your team a lot. We looked at your players up on the internet. We looked at your scores and filled out a paper on field goals and free throws. We tried to beat your scores, but we couldn't. Okay, now I want you to write. First we went ahead, write about how we did that. This is an awesome introduction. Now you're going to write me a sentence about how we shot the baskets and how we figured percents. Okay?
I didn't figure percents.
Sure you did. Yeah. How did you get these? Do you remember?
Chris.
Okay, so you had 3 out of 8, right? So in order to figure percents, you divide 3 by 8. And that's how you got 38%. So you're going to write about that next. Write about that and then tell me and I'll help you with the next step.